Awesome. Let's try this again. Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa McBride, and I am a Senior Associate Scientist with Zoetis in Durham, North Carolina. I'm really excited to talk to you guys about today about a little bit about what I do and how I got into the career that I did and a little bit more about STEM. So let's jump in. You may be asking, what in the world is Zoetis? Well, Zoetis is the largest global animal health company. We are mostly known for our vaccines, medicines, and diagnostic products, but we also have a portfolio of biodevices, genetic tests, and livestock farming. And there's me again. I'm part of the biodevice development and validation, which is a subset of the bioprocess sciences here in Durham. So let's jump right in. The main device that I have primarily worked on over the past couple of years is the NXT InnovaJect. It automates the egg processing at commercial chicken hatcheries. But before we go into the details of the device, let's look at a chicken's journey from egg to your table. So it all starts out at the layer farm where eggs are laid by the breeding flocks. Then those eggs are collected and then sent off to the hatchery where the eggs are incubated until chicks hatch. After that, the chicks are then sent to the grow-out farm where they grow up for 6 weeks and become big, healthy birds. Then they are sent to the processing plant where they are processed and packaged. After that, it's then transported to the grocery store for you to buy, and then of course you buy it and then it's on your table for dinner. So our device primarily, there's a lot of bio devices that are involved in this journey, but our device focuses on the hatchery. So let's look into that. The eggs then take about 21 days to hatch from when the eggs are first incubated until they hatch out at day 21. But let's look at what happens more specifically during those 21 days. So the eggs are collected and they are placed into these large egg flats. They're basically plastic egg cartons. So think about what you have in your fridge, like a dozen eggs, but these are plastic and they hold a lot more than a dozen. These are then put into racks and then stored in egg incubators. These incubators regulate temperature, humidity, turning, ventilation, and gas exchange to simulate what the chicks experience naturally from their mothers and to help them progress through development. So this happens day 0 through 17. And let's jump to day 19 to 21. So we don't want the chicks hatching out onto those flats because they could fall to the floor and run around all over the hatchery. So they are placed into these plastic baskets that we call hatch baskets. And then these baskets stack on top of one another and are placed in hatcheries for the last couple of days until when they hatch. So you may be asking, what about day 18? So I'd like to remind you that day 18 is very late in the development phase. The chick is almost completely ready to hatch. Only the yolk sac absorption and getting into position to hatch is left needed in development. So let's jump back to the bio device. This is our NXT InnovaJect. There are 4 main modules to this device: the control, the selectable remover, the injector, and the transfer. Each of them have very specific jobs, and we're going to go through them one at a time. The eggs come in on their flat, so in like the giant plastic egg cartons. Here at the control module. This is basically the brain of the device where we have the computer and the software and the programming, as well as data collection. And this little black box, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, but this little black box is where we have our egg identification. This is where it scans a full flat of eggs and tells the computer which eggs are alive and which eggs are not, because not all eggs are fertile or have baby chicks in them. Once it knows which positions are specifically live and not live, the flat then moves down to the selectable remover, and the computer tells this part of the module, this part of the device, which eggs to specifically pick and which eggs not to pick. So only certain positions will come down and pick up the eggs. Those eggs are then removed from the flat and sent off to sometimes disposal, sometimes to other protein sources. So they are out of the question for our live chicks. And those live chicks then go down to the injector, which is where we have in vivo vaccination. In vivo is just a fancy term for in the egg vaccination. And if you think about it, it's pretty cool that we've been able to automate this process. So you may be wondering, what in the world, how did we vaccinate an egg or vaccinate a chick while it's in the egg? And basically this whole head comes down and it punches a hole in all of the eggs, and then it'll insert a needle through that larger punch and then vaccinate the specific chicks. All of the specific injection tools will come down and punch and insert the needle. but only specific positions where the device tells it that have the live embryos will receive the vaccine. So we are saving vaccine and only injecting where we need to inject. After they have been vaccinated, they then travel down to the transfer, which is where the whole head comes down and picks up all the eggs, and the operator then places in a hatch basket, one of those hatch baskets I showed you. The device then releases the eggs into the hatch basket, and then the operator stacks those baskets up into a buggy, and then they are sent on back to the hatcher until they hatch. So that's a lot that goes on to then in this device. Let's talk a little bit more about what specifically goes into it. So we all start out at the design engineering. So this is where the engineers draw all of the design functions of the device. It's mostly on the computer, and they do some device checks, but they are mostly on the computer. Software engineers then program all of the software to tell the device all the sequencing, the timing, just basically how to run. And then once we have the device, the product engineers focus more so on the physical device and drawing checks, making sure everything is working as expected. And then once they give the all clear, it then comes to the bioprocess sciences, where we ensure animal safety and basically do a full bio validation, just making sure the device is going to work as we expect it to. And then next it'll come to the reliability engineers. This is a different group of engineers. They basically try to break the device. They will run and they will speed up the process, the life cycle of the device, to try to predict when the parts are going to fail and how we are going to get around that. Next, once we have a full design approved and functioning and everything, we'll then send it off to manufacturing for them to continue building. And our quality team also will ensure that it is built to standard and functions appropriately. Once those devices have been approved, they then go to the field services team. And basically, the field services takes care of the device throughout its lifetime. So they schedule all the services, making sure all the every part of the device works. They also consult with the hatchery management to ensure that they are optimizing chick production. And lastly, we wouldn't be able to do all this without our business and marketing team in Durham. They basically manage all the accounts and advertising. I know they do a lot more than that, but we wouldn't be successful without them. So of course they are needed. But I work within the bioprocess sciences. So let's talk a little bit more about what I specifically do. These are the two main labs that I work in. On the left is the engineering lab, where you can see all of the devices. This is where we do our device measurements. We do some runoffs with fake eggs, just so we don't have live eggs in that lab. And then on the right is the bioprocess lab. This is where we do a lot of our chemical testing, our microbial testing, that kind of stuff. So most of my time is split between these two labs. So ever since I joined with Zoetis, I have been able to do a lot of different things. So I know my title says that I'm a scientist, but I've been involved with a lot more than just the science behind it. I have built parts for manufacturing. I've assisted in device design reviews. I've assisted in engineering testing, software validation. I write a lot of protocols for studies and validations. I also do a lot of data analysis, measure volumes with pipettes, chemical testing, microbial testing, site of injection studies, egg measurements, egg and chick studies at the vivarium. That's your word of the day. Go look it up. It's just a fancy word for our research facility. And then my favorite, field studies and validations at the actual hatchery. So that's my favorite. We get to take the device and do a full validation of it. So that's a little bit about what I do. Let's jump to my journey to Zoetis. So I was born and grew up in Raleigh. I went to high school in Raleigh, graduated in 2015. I applied to a whole bunch of different colleges. But I ultimately decided upon North Carolina State University because of the amount of options they had to offer. I'm one of the rare students that applied as a biological sciences major, and I continued and graduated with a biological sciences major in 2018, December of 2018. And during that early 2018 year, I started looking on my college's Career Center website, and I applied to basically anything and everything. I wasn't really 100% sure what I wanted to do yet. I knew I liked working with animals. I knew I wanted to do a little bit more than work in a vet clinic. So then I saw this job with Zoetis posted, so of course I applied to it, and I thankfully was selected, and it's been history ever since. I worked my internship in summer of 2018, and I worked really hard, and a position opened up this April within the same team I've been working with, the bioprocess team. And so I was luckily hired in this year. And I just want to give you a couple of takeaways from hopefully a little bit about my presentation and all the other presentations and everything that has been set up for you. But what I love about Zoetis and what I encourage all of you to look for when you're applying to jobs and getting started in your career is look for companies that have great employee development. So that's not just setting up employees for one specific job. Zoetis is really good about helping me develop as a colleague for life. It helps me get ready to progress through and stay with Zoetis, as well as helping me with some life skills in case anything ever happens and I leave Zoetis. And then another one is the open door policy that we have. So I did not have a lot of experience with chickens before, and thankfully a lot of people have been really helpful. And when open door policy basically is if I have any questions at all, whether it's biology, engineering, or even my career path within Zoetis, I can basically go talk to anyone, and everyone has been really good about answering all of my questions. Another thing for Zoetis, and it kind of pertains to the whole theme of this event, is the women's initiative. We have a lot of men that work in our workforce, so we have some initiatives within Zoetis that allow women to get a little bit extra time together and discuss what we do and how to better ourselves. So that's really important. And then our core beliefs. I won't read through all of our core beliefs, but go check them out on our website. I'm really thankful that we have a solid understanding of what's expected of us and are basically keeping our focus on animals as well as the customer. Key takeaways, again, from some of what I've talked about and hopefully what you've learned from other presentations and everything else going on in this event, is find your passion. My passion was animals. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it, which isn't a bad thing, and I have lots of passions, but it's really good to find something that you like to do, but not like you don't want to burn out over it. So find your passion, put yourself out there and apply to everything, no matter how big or small it was. I didn't even really think I was going to get this internship with Zoetis. I wasn't planning to go into biodevice development, but here I am, and I found the career I love, and I have been set up with a really good company. So just apply to everything, anything and everything. Study hard is another big thing I would like to push. It's funny because in college, you think all you do is write papers, but it's not really true. I've written more papers with my time at Zoetis than I did in college, and it really has helped me as an employee and a colleague to get better. Is all my studying from even high school and middle school. And then lastly, this is actually one of our core beliefs, but always do the right thing. Trust yourself. If you are a little wishy-washy about doing something, always trust your gut. You're going to know the right thing to do. So that's pretty much it. I know we've had a couple of hiccups along the way. So here's my contact information. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions about my career path, my school journey, what we do at Zoetis, anything at all. Please feel free to reach out. I'd love to give a huge shout out to Alamance Community College and Edge Factor for putting on this program, as well as everybody else involved. And a big thank you to all the participants. I'm so excited that you're all interested in STEM careers, and hopefully you've learned a little bit today. I think we have time for some questions and answers.
Does anyone have any questions for Melissa?
I'm going to put it back up on my contact screen, just so in case you have questions that come up later, that's totally fine.
So I'll ask you a couple questions if that's okay.
Sure, of course.
What skills do you feel are the most critical to succeed in your industry?
Oh, that's a good question. I think the number one skill, and you'll hear this across many industries, is teamwork. It really, I know it sounds like everybody talks about teamwork, it's kind of overused, kind of cliche, but it really makes a difference. If you don't have a solid teamwork and work ethic and value everybody else's opinions, you're not going to be successful as an individual and as a company as well. So teamwork's really big. Another one that we have been talking about this year specifically is communication, and our communication styles have changed a little bit as we've gone mostly remote and we aren't in person as much. But working on your interpersonal communication skills is also a huge factor as well. Lastly, something that I have personally been working on is organization and prioritization. It's really important to, at least for what we do, to document every single little thing. So whether it's like changes to the device, if anything has changed at all, if we use different screws, if we change the heights on certain things, have to document it. If we, for example, if we're working with chicks, we like to document everything with them. So work on your documentation and organization skills, and you will be successful for this kind of career and pretty much any career.
Okay. And what woman inspires you and why?
Well, I think my most inspirational woman when it comes to my job specifically is probably my mom. Actually, she inspires me for every aspect of my life. My mother is a veterinarian, and she has always pushed me as a girl to really get out there and show what I got. And it's been a rough journey. Sometimes it's been a little too pushy, but I'm so appreciative of it now. And I get that from a lot of the women that I work with. So my mom has always been my number one cheerleader, but my number one pusher too. So I'm very thankful for that.
Good. Does anyone have any questions?
I'm hoping more people are able to watch this after the fact. I know we had a couple of issues getting logged in the first session and even this session too, but
Yeah.
hopefully people will watch it after the fact. I know some people have specific assignments to watch this, so yeah. I'm happy to talk to anyone if you have questions afterwards.
All right, and I'm going to mention the code word for entering to win the prize, and the code word is chicken.
Perfect. Very relevant.
All right, if no one has any questions, I think we can wrap up. And thank you so much for joining us and having this presentation.
Yes, thank you all so much. And thank you so much for letting me present today. I really appreciate it.
Sure.